Yes, indeed. You are now rocking with the best. Parrish on your screen. Okay, you don't know who I am, but that's okay. We're going to come back to that in a second. I have the man, the myth, the legend, Jesse Holley with me. And of course, he is the man that you know. Jesse, take the mic for a second because it's been a while since everybody's heard from you. Tell everybody where you've been before we get into everything that's Cowboys related.
Yeah, sometimes you gotta just reconstruct, right? If you ever watch HGTV, I love HGTV, by the way. You talk about the demo, right? You gotta sometimes break the thing down and build it back up. And so the prior iteration of Bleav in the Cowboys was myself and Jeff Kavanaugh, and then Jeff Kavanaugh moved some other things, and it was myself. And now we got the BET version going on here. All right, we got Jay Holley and we got Parrish, man. And so this is the new iteration of Bleav in the Cowboys. And so we are going to bring it to you each and every week, raw and uncut. We're going to tell the truth whether you like it or not, because the devil is a lie and we don't believe in the devil on this side. So you're going to get the truth and you're going to get it every single which way you want it.
Absolutely. I second that, because if this is the location you are looking to have homers, hey, he ain't me, I ain't him. I ain't never been a homer a day in my life. Listen, when it comes to the Cowboys, I'm going to tell you when they playing great, and I'm also going to tell you when they playing like trash. So it is what it is. Everybody's excited about the schedule release. We know who the Cowboys are going to be playing. We know when the Cowboys are going to be playing. It's a brutal schedule right now. If you look at it, it is the 8th most difficult schedule league-wide based on records from 2014. So, Jesse, topping things off, you start the game, you start the season, you start the entire 2025 season facing the defending champions, opening night, Philadelphia Eagles. Your thoughts when you saw who the Cowboys are going to be playing?
I absolutely love it. In the words of the great and legendary Ric Flair, in order to be the man, you got to beat the man. And, this is a matchup, Philadelphia and Dallas, that is historically been high level, intense, vicious, physical. But as of late, Jalen Hurts and Dak Prescott, they've only actually played in 3 games because of injuries on both sides. I love the fact that coming into this game, knocking on wood, you presumably will have 2 of the most healthy teams coming out of training camp, ready, set to go early in the year. So there will be no excuses. There will be no injuries, hopefully. But you just have 2 dogs ready to be let off the leash and ready to go. I know when I was a player, when the schedule came out, you look for those division rivals. I look for those cold games. I don't like playing in the cold. And then you know that you got Philly in September early in the year. That makes it even more better for the Cowboys. So this should be a great game. It should be set. They're going to be hanging the banner in Philadelphia that night. So that's more motivation to come in there and to be the spoiler, because you already know the Eagles fans going to give you the middle finger off the bus. So you might as well give them the middle finger on the way out with a dub.
Listen, when we're talking about the Philadelphia Eagles, we know that they're the defending Super Bowl champions. You talked about Jalen Hurts, who is utterly amazing in everything he's done, the trajectory, how he's advanced as a player. But you look at an Eagles team, this Cowboys team, at least last year's iteration, only scored 13 points total when it comes to playing the Philadelphia Eagles. So the work is going to be cut out for them. We don't know which Cowboys team is going to show up. We know they look pretty on the perimeter when you have CeeDee Lamb. You acquire Pickens coming in. I called him Carl Pickens. That's his dad. Excuse me. It's not Carl Pickens. I'm thinking about his dad that played for Cincinnati. However, George Pickens comes in so pretty on the perimeter, a whole bunch of young backs along with some free agent acquisitions. Offensively, we know what they can do, but the trenches, the offensive line, that's what's really going to make the difference. My thoughts. What about yours?
You know what? The game is won and lost in the trenches. And the Cowboys have invested the number 12 overall pick in getting a guy that's going to be a trench daddy in Tyler Booker. And Tyler Booker said, be careful what you ask for Tyler Booker, but he said, the Cowboys brought me here so that I can be the Jalen Carter stopper. So I can be somebody that Jalen Carter has to worry. Well, welcome to the NFL, rookie, because week 1, you're going to get Jalen Carter. And the Philadelphia Eagles have for a long time has had one of the best defensive lines and offensive line. And so the Cowboys better come ready to be able, 1, to stop the penetration of a guy like Jalen Carter and company, but also they're going to have to worry about the running game of the Philadelphia Eagles, and that offensive line coming right back at the Dallas Cowboys. So it should be interesting. You draft and you build your team first and foremost to win your division. That is the path to the Super Bowls. Win the division, get home field advantage, and then go into the playoffs. So the Cowboys have been building their team. You're going to want to see what Tyler Guyton is looking like. Struggled last year as a rookie at the left tackle position, but it's time to put up or shut up for a guy like Tyler Guyton. But the Cowboys will hopefully be a very, very formidable opponent in the trenches with what they picked up this year in the draft.
Indeed. And you talk about Tyler. You got Tyler Booker, you got Tyler Guyton, you got Tyler Smith. And by the way, AT&T Stadium is about 115 miles from Tyler, Texas. The Great Wall of Tyler, that's what they're looking to build right now. Zach Martin out, the first ballot Hall of Famer. Tyler Booker who turned 21 earlier in the month in, March. So they bring him in. He could be the guy. Coming in from Bama, team captain. He was an absolute dog when he was there. Only gave up 2 sacks with 3 sacks his entire career there as a starter there. So he could be a guy that could come in and potentially fill Zach Martin's shoes. Those are big shoes to fill. So we're looking at this schedule. I'm going to jump around for a little bit because we know we have everything here, but let's jump to Thanksgiving for a second if we can, because the Kansas City Chiefs come in, because we're going to start with the absolute best. Philadelphia Eagles, first game of the season. Then Thanksgiving Day, the Kansas City Chiefs come to town. The last time the Kansas City Chiefs played the Cowboys on Thanksgiving was way back in the 90s when you had the Triple J's there. You had the triplets. I said Triple J's, not the Dallas Mavericks. My bad. I'm talking about the actual triplets. Michael Irvin, Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith, long time ago. We're talking about Kansas City now. So when you have an opponent like Kansas City, obviously this is going to be a huge game. What stands out to you seeing Kansas City arriving on Thanksgiving?
If you want to go into a little bit of the history of that was the last time that the Cowboys appeared in the Super Bowl. That year was 95, and that's the last time they played on Thanksgiving Day. And it goes back to the same thing I said about the Philadelphia Eagles. You want to be considered as a formidable opponent. You want to be looked at across the league as someone who have playoff contentions, not just playoff contention, but truly Super Bowl contention. These are the games that you have to win and play. You have to play these tough games against opponents like Kansas City. You listen. Patrick Mahomes is from Texas. You know he's going to be geeked up to come back to play at AT&T Stadium. And it's always a challenge. Andy Reid is the head coach. You'll have Travis Kelce and all the high flying that they bring with the Kansas City Chiefs. You know, you talk about being a young offensive lineman, dealing with a guy like Chris Jones in the middle. Last year, Tyler Guyton, he had to face a lot of the top-rated defensive ends. Well, Tyler Booker, you're going to have to face some pretty tough interior defensive linemen. Talking about Dexter Lawrence and Payne and Carter. Well, add Chris Jones to that list as well. And when these guys are playing on Thanksgiving, not only do they want to win, but these are the type of teams that want to embarrass you at home, ruin the turkey, make the stuffing not digestible. The macaroni and cheese is a little bit tougher to swallow. The yams just ain't as sweet when you lose on Thanksgiving. And so the Kansas City Chiefs are coming in to make a statement. But the Cowboys, if you want to show that you're not the same old Cowboys, if the Cowboys want to show up and show out, you got to take care of these big-time opponents at home on moments like this on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, remember what the Cowboys did last season when it came to opponents coming to Jerry's World. It was utterly embarrassing, the amount of points that the defense was giving up and the amount of points the offense wasn't scoring when it came time to playing those games at home. So let's go back to the schedule. When you talk about it, we look at the NFC North, formidable opponents. We got quarterbacks coming in who are top picks in the draft, but I want to focus on the Packers who come in, and we know the last time that the Packers came into Jerry's World. Speaking of giving up a lot of points, Jordan Love returning to the scene of the crime. We remember how it went down. There were pick six thrown by Dak Prescott and a lot of points put up by the Packers. What type of matchup will this be when you have the Packers coming back? The anticipation, what do you see?
If I'm a player like Micah Parsons, this is the game that I circled on my schedule. This is the one that I circle and I go, I'm getting my lick back. I'm getting my lick back against the Green Bay Packers at the crib, because the Green Bay Packers came into the Cowboys Stadium in the playoff game and embarrassed them. It was bad from start to finish. And so, Micah Parsons took a ton of heat after that game for kind of, not really being and showing up like he was supposed to in that game, and others. And then to have Jordan Love on the podcast a week or so later, or 2 weeks later, after that all went down. So this is the type of game where if I'm Micah Parsons, I'm circling that game and saying, I'm getting my lick back at home in front of the world. And again, we're going to show the Green Bay Packers, this ain't the old Cowboys. You ain't going to just come in here and do what you want, how you want, when you want to us. But we're going to put our foot down and let you know, you come in this house, you got a penalty to pay.
Absolutely. Also, looking at the road games, talking about NFC North opponents, we know that Ben Johnson is going to be the head coach now for the Chicago Bears. We saw what Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator, did as the offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions. Now he has a quarterback who is supposed to be coming into his own. You go visit Chicago. And again, you talked about cold weather games. Not a cold weather game because it'll still be early in the season when they go visit Chicago.
Bias aside, I don't know if a lot of people know this or not, but Ben Johnson and I were teammates at the University of North Carolina. I was a starting receiver. He was a backup quarterback. And to see what he's been able to do with his NFL coaching career with the Detroit Lions, of course, and now being the head coach of the Chicago Bears. This Bears team is going to be tough. I think when you look at all that they did, they went and they tried to shore up that offensive line for Caleb Williams. They went and got weapons. And so that Ben Johnson is going to come in here, and really take this league by storm. I'm rooting for him silently because of our relationship. But I'm interested to see how the Cowboys will be able to attack that game. Again, another game that you got to go on the road. And I don't think it's going to be your old Chicago Bear team. But again, these are winnable games for the Cowboys. You got to go in there and know that you're going to be facing a very intricate scheme. You saw that what they did at Detroit and how much trouble that offense gave you at Detroit. Now, you don't have the same weapons, so to speak. Maybe you're better at quarterback. Maybe you're not better at quarterback. Maybe you have things that work for you. Maybe you don't have things that work for you. But you know that team's going to be well coached. That part you will know. But, it's a winnable game for the Cowboys, again, earlier in the season. I probably will pick the Cowboys to win that game, but I'm interested to see how it plays out.
Yeah, interesting to see how that plays out as well. Looking through the first 7 weeks, you have opponents. Obviously, we talked about the Eagles, but then you have teams that either have potentially a new starting quarterback or a new head coach, talking about the Giants, talking about the Bears, also a visit to the New York Jets. Past all that, going to week 7, the Commanders. We know last season that they came in the last home game and really played well. If you look at it, they played well and propelled themselves to that run that they had into the postseason where we saw Jaden Daniels. That's what I'm talking about. He came into his own, clearly was not a rookie anymore when we saw him that last game, but then going into the playoffs, that's a tough game, but the Commanders coming to Dallas to play.
It's going to be a tough game because it's a division game. A lot of times you can throw records out of the window. And to be honest with you, Jaden Daniels wasn't the one that gave you a lot of problems. When they brought Marcus Mariota to the game, he gave you problems, right? But again, a familiar opponent. Dan Quinn knows the Cowboys very, very well. He knows all the players here. He knows their strengths and their weaknesses. I think Washington's going to want to take that next step. What they did last year, going all the way to the NFC Championship game against the Philadelphia Eagles, you want to build on that. They got a lot of things happening in Washington. They're getting a new stadium. That team is on the rise. They're getting that energy back. And so they're going to want to be able to come into this season and win these big games against division opponents. I always kind of, except for the Giants of the last couple of years, I always pick the Cowboys to split with Washington and Philadelphia. And so it's a toss-up, right? You want to pick the home games or you want to pick the road games. But, essentially it's almost sometimes it's going to be a split there. But home field advantage is where you're supposed to win these games. You got to be able to win these games at home. So when Washington comes to Dallas, you have to be able to capitalize on that. I know that most people say that the Cowboys may not have a ruckus crowd, but it's something to be said about sleeping in your own bed, going to your own locker room, driving your own car to the stadium, having your people at the stadium. This is a game that the Cowboys must win at home because you don't want to get to the end of the year with things get a little bit shaky and you start looking at saying, man, if we could have got a game here, could have got a game there, we won't be finding ourselves in this situation where we need these things to happen, or the power's out of our hands to make the playoffs, or hey, we had our chances and now we're not even going to the playoffs. So winning these games early in the season definitely benefits you on the back end.
Looking at the first part of the schedule, is really a toss-up between games that the Cowboys have a chance to potentially win and playing against teams that they might not be the favorite. But the game that I have circled right now, talk about those primetime games, Monday Night Football, the Arizona Cardinals. Now, we know that they might not necessarily be a contender. However, they have a quarterback in Kyler Murray who has never lost, never, ever lost when it comes to playing in Jerry World, whether it be in high school at Allen, where he never lost a game in the playoffs, or when he came in college, and even as a pro. That matchup right there is going to be a key.
No, it is. And again, those are those swing games that we talk about. When you get to the end of the year and you look up and you go, dang it, we lost to Arizona at home. That would have been a game that we could have used to propel us to a better seeding or into the playoffs at all. The Cowboys are a better team than the Cardinals. The Cardinals, we have Clayton Adams, who used to be their offensive line coach, has come over to the Dallas Cowboys and is helping out the Cowboys now. So they have someone we have someone on our side who kind of is very familiar with what they're doing in Arizona. I know that Kyler is undefeated in AT&T, but hopefully we can give him that first L coming this season, because those are the games, the winnable games, the game that you look at your schedule and you go, that should be a win. And for the Cardinals, Kyler is going to be just a little weasel, right? Trying to stop him, corral him, contain him. It's going to be a headache. But that's definitely a winnable game that the Cowboys should have. I don't want the Cowboys to be looking ahead, right? Because it's like Monday Night Football and the bye week, right? It's like, so don't look too far ahead into your bye week. Finish off, as they say, finish your food before you start looking to go out and party.
Absolutely. Finish your breakfast. All those primetime games. We know the Cowboys are always in prime time. We talked about earlier in the season when they have the Eagles opening night, but then later on in the season, after you have that bye week, you have the Lions on Thursday Night Football, an opponent who is going to kick and drag. We know what Dan Campbell does, followed by Sunday Night Football facing a Vikings team that's going to have a brand new quarterback, and then Christmas, the Commanders. So that last back part of the schedule, it is brutal. What games stick out to you and why?
Of course, the Lions game, right? That always is the game that tests your will. Man Campbell, a.k.a. Dan Campbell, what that physicality is going to be in that game. He knows his team is going to be prepared. They're going to be physical. When you start getting later into the season, the body's worn down. You hope that your team is still somewhat healthy. And what really stands out to me in these weeks where, I want to see the health of a guy like Micah Parsons, because we see him come out the gate a lot of times and he's like taking off, and then he kind of curtails towards the end of the season. Body just wears down, playing actually, smaller guy playing in a position in the trenches where it can just wear on you at 250 pounds, going up against those 320-pound dudes day in and day out, down in and down out. So that Lions game to me is definitely going to be a game that I'm looking at Thursday Night Football game. It's in that stretch where the Cowboys play those 3 games in 11 to 12 days, something like that, after the Thanksgiving bid. So being able to see how their body's recovering, how are they feeling in those moments, and then being able to go up against tough opponents like the Lions.
So let's take a pause for a second, because you mentioned Micah Parsons, and everybody's going to be paying attention to him because we know that he is due to get paid. We know when it comes to paying players, the Cowboys have no problem paying players. However, sometimes it just takes a minute. They're very meticulous when it comes to writing that check, sometimes waiting right before the season's about to begin. Jerry Jones famously said a couple of months ago that he did not know the name of Micah Parsons' agent. And I got to thinking, they just traded. A gentleman named Pickens come in, professional pass catcher who happens to have the same agent as one Micah Parsons. Hey, Dave Mulligetta is one of the best in the business. Aside from the schedule, what chance do we have to see, in your personal opinion, to see a contract get done for Micah Parsons before the season starts?
I'll even add another one to that. All-pro guard Tyler Smith has new representation. He is also now an Athletes First athlete. So he probably will be represented by David Malugeta as well. So Jerry went from not knowing the man's name to having to deal a lot with the man. After he get finished signing these checks for Tyler Smith and Michael Parsons and George, and hope maybe George Pickens an extension, he gonna know how to spell Malugeta without messing up. Jerry's also famous. He said deadline makes deals, right? Like, one thing for certain, two things for sure. Michael Parsons is one of the premier pass rushers in the National Football League. We don't question that. We also don't question that he's getting paid. We know that's happening. Now, you can make this lighter on yourself and get it done now, or something happens like Trey Hendrickson for the Cincinnati Bengals. He's looking to get a new deal. So if he gets another deal before Michael Parsons gets done, does that bump the number up even more for the Cowboys and having to pay Michael Parsons? Because at the end of the day, yes, the day going in, but also Michael Parsons is going to get a couple dollars more than whatever the highest non-quarterback contract is in the league. So you can make it light on yourself and get it done now. Also, I said this about a week or so ago, Micah will play nice when it comes to being at voluntary workouts. Micah's not going to play nice when it comes to being at training camp if that deal's not done. Micah's not at training camp. Eberflus is trying to put in a new defense. You don't have your best player. He's not learning the defense. There is no cohesion happening. It takes a little time for that to happen. The longer you wait, and again, you have to open up the season against Philadelphia. You don't have time to be learning each other when you get to Philadelphia. You got to know who you are when you get to Philadelphia. So it just would make for a better situation for all parties involved if Jerry just get off the boat, get off the yacht. Well, hell, you can stay on the yacht. You can stay on the yacht if you like. Have a wire transfer. Hit where it got to hit. Get the deal inked, and then go back to sipping your mojito on a 250 feet yacht as the money hits Michael Parsons' account.
Yes, indeed. I want to see that deal get done. Again, David Malugeta, one of the best in the business, always negotiating big deals, multiple $100 million deals when it comes to guys in the NFL. So his other client we talked about, Pickens, who comes over. George Pickens is an absolute dog. We know what he can do. He's a big body. He's a vertical threat. We know that he can make plays. It's usually not good when the Pittsburgh Steelers let a wide receiver go. We can go down the list of other wideouts that they let go. The question is, which version of George Pickens are we going to get? I liken the comparison to, a former Cowboys wideout with the last name of Bryant. Now, is it going to be more Dez that was passionate, or is it going to be more Antonio who was volatile? Which version of George Pickens do you expect to see once it's time to play?
Bro, I wish I had an answer for you. Nobody knows. Nobody knows what you're going to get from George Pickens. And even in the time when you had Dez Bryant, I was on the Cowboys when Dez Bryant came to the Cowboys. He was my rookie for 2 years, and so understanding it's a very fine line between, when your talent is rolling, between being passionate, being a competitor, and being a distraction and being a malcontent. Because Dez was the same person from start to finish, and those words went from being, he's passionate and he's competitive, to, he's being a malcontent, and now he's being a distraction. Same person, same antics. It's just all about now how you felt about said player. I think for George Pickens, man, if he's trying to get paid, then, it would behoove him to be on his very, 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 very best behavior, whether that payment comes from the Cowboys or whether that payment comes from somewhere else. You have an opportunity to erase the narrative of what people have said about you in this new surroundings. When he did his introductory press conference over the phone, David Malugeta had some good bullet points, and boy, he followed them to a T with the things that he was saying. But it comes down to what happens when you have to face adversity. What happens when you don't get the ball in the football game? What happens if you happen to lose 2 or 3 games in a row? Now, not wishing those things on anybody or on the team, but those are just the realities of what can possibly go down. And now, what person are you going to get? Because you can only hold up this facade for so long. who you are is who you are, and that will show for the most part in the moments where your feet are put to the fire. So today, when we're sitting here, you and I talking, I don't know what George Pickens we're going to get. I'm along for the ride, though, right? I'm like the Joker when he's driving that police car, and it's like, here we go.
Right.
I'm just ready to go for the ride, and whatever happens, if he's great on the football field, great, we'll have a lot to talk about. If he crashes out, great, we'll have a lot to talk about. Either way, I'm fine because he's going to give us something to talk about.
Absolutely. The Cowboys fans do not want him to crash out. Like, it's still the splash move because the Cowboys obviously did not draft a wideout or sign one in free agency. So you got a former second-round pick that comes in, again, traded for a third and a fifth-round pick swap. But he is entering the final year of his deal, won a title at Georgia, at least 50 catches, at least 800 yards in each of his first 3 seasons. You know, he's played on the big stage. He's been described as athletically gifted. He plays with a little bit of an edge, but he has unmatched confidence in his abilities. Also, some say he's mercurial, and that can go either way. Listen, Mike Tomlin said he needs to grow up. Jerry Jones accepted him with open arms. Either way, I can't wait to see what he does once he gets between the lines, lined up on the opposite side of CeeDee Lamb. Hey, we know CeeDee Lamb saw a ton of double coverage last season. Sometimes quarterbacks trying to force him to rock, which didn't lead to success. But now you have somebody, it's like, hey, who are you going to double team? So that should open up things for either player and also should open up things for the running game.
No, absolutely. Adding a player like Pickens, you know, when you break the huddle, it's not just, and we've heard players say it, when they played the Cowboys last year, teams would just go, listen, we're going to double CeeDee Lamb, and we ain't worried about whoever else is over there. We ain't worried about them. We're not worried about them at all. But now when you break the huddle and you look up, and I'm assuming the number's going to be 14, right? And you break the huddle and you go, oh, snap. There's 14 and there's 88. There's 18 and there's 14. Now you have to worry about that. That is a matchup nightmare that you have to worry about each and every down. And then when you add into the mix, you know, Jake Ferguson is looking to have a bounce back year. Well, if I got 2 studs on the outside, that means the middle of the field will be slightly open a little bit for a guy like Jake Ferguson to work. Now those safeties have to get back off the line of scrimmage and back, back deep. So now running lanes may open up a little bit more for whoever the running back's going to be, whether that's going to be Javonte Williams or Jaden Blue or whoever the Cowboys may, have running the football. It just having weapons just opens up the offense for everybody. Dak Prescott is not having to fit the ball in these small windows like he did in the past and put the ball in harm's way, but he's always being able to go out there and pick and choose where he wants to go with the football and make the easy option because you have 2 stud receivers on the outside.
No question. They are pretty on the perimeter, as I said earlier, and we'll see what number Pickens is going to wear. Currently, 14 is taken. Also, number 1 that he was wearing in college is taken as well. So he might have to, break some bread to get that number that he wants, or maybe he picks a new one. Who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, I tweeted the other day, I told Marquise Bell, who wears number 14, I said, Marquise, the conversation starts at 25,000 cash. 25,000 cash, we can start the conversation. If you ain't coming with 25K, we can't even talk for number 14.
Absolutely. Yeah. Break bread. I need that. I need to get that up out your ASAP. So again, in review, we're looking at the Cowboys schedule. Again, the 8th most difficult schedule when you're looking on opponents from the 2024 season, their records. Wrapping things up. Once again, we know opening night, visiting the Eagles. We know Thanksgiving, the Chiefs come to town. And then you have major games in prime time with the Lions, the Vikings, and the Commanders on Christmas Day. So looking at this schedule, if we can encapsulate what you think about the Cowboys schedule in 2025, how would you do it?
Tough. It's going to be tough. And the Cowboys will be battle proven. It's going to be a war of attrition. Like, this is what the schedule is going to be. It's going to be a war of attrition when you have to play this level of opponents each and every week within your division and outside of your division. So the Cowboys have the work cut out for them. Brian Schottenheimer, welcome to the big leagues, my boy. As your first head coaching job, you have a treacherous schedule and you have some big-time games. Now, this can make or break Brian Schottenheimer. I think for him, his leash won't be super, super long, but you can come out the gate smoking and really get people on your side, or this thing can go bad really, really fast with the opponents that you have to play. Because it's still pretty interesting that even before the trade happened and before schedules begin to come out, Vegas had the Cowboys at 7.5 wins. And then now you look at it after all that has transpired, a good draft, a good trade, Vegas is still like 7.5 wins. Now, either they know something that we don't know, or we in for some trouble, right? Like something got to give at the 7.5 win total for the Cowboys this year that Vegas is sitting on, and that's before and after the draft and the trade. So it's going to be a very interesting season. It's going to be tough. And as we get closer to training camp, we'll continue to break this thing down, and I'll have a better feel of what this team will be once these pieces actually get out of the underwear Olympics and get into real pads, helmets, and shoulder pads and start clanging and banging, and you start to see this team formulate and what they're going to be this season.
No question. Shouts out to our friends in Vegas who generally get things right. There's a reason why those buildings are so big and bright. The quarterbacks, Jordan Love, Justin Herbert, Kyler Murray, J.J. McCarthy. We don't know what he is yet, but you got Sam Darnold, along with Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels, Williams in Chicago, Patrick Mahomes. The quarterbacks that the Cowboys will be facing this season is going to be ridiculous. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the defense does when they're playing some of the best and brightest signal callers in the league.
No, absolutely. Matt Eberflus, you have your hands full as well. And a lot of these teams you know well because of the division you were in with the head coach of the Bears. So you've seen the Packers up close and personal. You've seen the Bears up close and personal. So the Vikings, all these teams that you had in your division, you now have to go out there and play against them with the Cowboys. The good thing is you do have one of the best pass rushers, elite pass rushers on your football team in Micah Parsons. And we're going to see what these other young guys can do to help bring this thing out. The Cowboys got to find themselves some corners, because with that level of elite quarterback play, the ball will be in the air. And if you out there and you can't play, guys like Patrick Mahomes, mouse in the house, they're going to find you. Yeah, exactly. Barbecue chicken, as Shaq would say. They're going to find you, and they ain't going to let you go.
Absolutely. Way. They said, we ain't going to let you go, but we got to let you go. Believing in the Cowboys, and we appreciate you for tuning in. Again, Jesse, like you said, this is the brand new rendition. We got a little seasoning we sprinkling on this thing for 2025.
There's the Larry's edition, baby. We got the Larry's.
Yes, indeed. Hey, shouts out to you. We love all of you. Thank you for rocking with us every single time we put up a podcast on you. Hey, I'm Parrish. Jesse, go ahead, take us home.
Hey, man, you already know what it is, man. You guys, how I like to leave this thing, man. Eliminate the contingencies. We out.